Welcome to Don't Take This Personally,
a podcast about the business of creativity.
We are your hosts, Gabe Conover
and Cami Oliveria.
And before we get started, we just want to remind you that we will be on Clubhouse every Tuesday between the hours of 10 and noon. Follow us on Instagram at don'ttakethispersonally.podcast to get those exact times.
Yep, because it changes. Things
it does.
happen.
We have calls, we have lives, you know?
Yeah. Oh, do we have lives?
No.
Oh, okay. And before we dive into today's spicy topic I'm so excited about, I just want to take a second and tell you about Freedom Edits. Now, I can tell you with certainty, Freedom Edits saved my life and gave me basically all of the amazing things I have is because of Freedom Edits. I can tell you I would not have my dog Bellatrix if I did not have Freedom Edits. My husband Victor did not even let us consider getting a dog until I got my life under control because how could I possibly take care of a little puppy love if I couldn't even remember to shower or feed myself because I was so busy editing all the time. I hated my life. I loved my business, but was starting to hate it. So I found Freedom Edits when I did, and it changed everything for me. You guys, it's not as scary as you think. I thought I had to do everything. That was a limiting belief that had been holding me back for years. It saved me from burnout and gave me all these beautiful things in my life I have. You just have to try it. It's very low commitment. It's not so scary. They'll hold your hand through the whole process. I promise. Go to freedomedits.com/don'tttakethispersonally to get started. You'll get a free onboarding call. They'll edit 20 images for free for you so you can kind of get a sense for the process. And then to get 50% off your first order, use the promo code CAMIGABE.
Our first promo code.
And spell it right.
That's
Cami
right.
with a K, K-A-M-I, Gabe.
No questions there.
No questions there. So
with that said, let's jump into our topic today.
Which, if you use Freedom Edits, you could have more time to travel.
Yes.
And today we are talking all about traveling.
Traveling for work, traveling for self, which is what we all actually want to do.
Yeah.
Something that Cami brought up as we were discussing this topic is that our industry is so unique in that we are willing to sacrifice anything, it seems, in order to travel for our jobs, to appear like we're being sent to all of these incredible places to do weddings and stuff like that. And it just is kind of mind-blowing because I don't know of any other industry that really focuses that much on it.
Yeah, this is a conversation I wanted to have, and I know we get opinionated sometimes, and this conversation is not to come from a place of judgment or anything because we both travel.
Mm-hmm.
We travel for work. We've done it for cheap. We've done it for free. We've all done all of these things, and we all do it. I just really am excited to have an honest conversation about why we do it, what's up, the things to consider, just to give everyone just some more things to think about when you're making decisions. Especially in the wedding industry, traveling is really fascinating because it is so glamorized.
Yes.
Like being the traveling photographer is like the pinnacle of success in our industry.
Destination wedding photographers.
Being, getting flown, and it's all kind of about creating a fantasy, like about an illusion of, I can't tell you how many photographers I talk to where they're really making it look like they're so successful and doing all this traveling work. And then you talk to them and find out they weren't making any money on those weddings.
Yeah. And I think too, they glamorize the idea of what it looks like because I like Cami was saying, I do travel for work, not all the time. Most of my work is in California, but when I do travel, like it's not like I'm doing all of these luxurious, glamorous things. I'm not staying in 5-star star resorts. I'm not flying first class. I'm literally packing as little as possible, carrying everything on my back, trying to save as much money as possible so that I can actually make a profit from what I'm doing.
Well, something that was really eye-opening to me is when I brought on my accountants to help me out with my business, they said something really insightful. They were like, and they have quite a few photographers as clients and other types of small businesses. And they were like, photographers are the only businesses that are willing to travel and have it affect their bottom line so much. Why do you guys do that? Like from a business perspective, a lot of it doesn't actually make sense. So I'm just excited to kind of dive into this.
Right, and I think it's a simple answer for why we do it, and the reason is because, we are artists at the same time, and traveling and getting to go to unique places and create art in different unique places does seem very appealing.
And
but
it's fulfilling, sure.
It is fulfilling, but I think that we are going about it in the wrong way, and in a way that is just very, very draining, and then also not profitable in any way. So that I think is why we do it. Which I understand. I do understand. I've done it. Like I've gone to Paris very cheaply for a wedding before, and like it's not like I made a ton of money off of it, and I did make some money, but who would know that if I hadn't actually said that?
Yeah, but I think it's not bad to do that.
Yeah.
But I think where it becomes a problem is when you're doing it all the time and it's really starting to affect your bottom line, and we're starting to do these things just for the illusion of success. And so before, right off the bat, I just want to present some different ways of looking at this. So when I take a traveling wedding, I always think of the opportunity cost of what I'm losing because of taking that traveling wedding. For example, you take a wedding that requires you to travel. It's on a Saturday. That wedding day is not just Saturday. It's now Friday through Sunday, in the very least. Sometimes it requires, even buffering that with another day or something. So not only did your hourly rate just go way down because that one wedding of what was supposed to be 10 hours with driving is now 72 hours.
I think that's
what's
right.
3 days of
We'll just say 72.
72.
I
Okay,
think you're
so
right.
take what you make and divide it by that. How much did your hourly rate just go down? You just fucking slashed your profit by like a quarter or a third. Like you're making hourly like a quarter, if that, of what you should be. Like from a money perspective, it's kind of weird. And then also, not only is your hourly rate just plummet, but what are you missing out on by what you could have booked locally? So like if I want to be working 3 days straight, I would rather have 3 days straight work of weddings and then make triple the profit, not slash my hourly rate by 75% or whatever.
Right.
And then I could take like a full weekend or two off and go on a trip or something. Like it's just this thing that's glamorized, but from a business perspective, I actually think it's like a little whack. Like you miss out on so much when you have to be gone for a whole weekend for one wedding. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And
it also takes a huge toll on just your mental health, because you're like, and your physical health, because traveling is not just, this glamorous thing where someone comes and picks you up in a limo and drives you to your next location. That's not how it works.
And you're alone.
Yeah, you're alone. You're waking up earlier than you want or staying up later than you want. You're having to rush between flights. You're having to get your rental car and then figure out a new city, figure out a new area and how to like maneuver it. And then, there's just so much more that goes into it.
Yeah.
And the reason, Cammie and I both do primarily, like almost all of our work down here in Southern California. And the reason for that is because we don't see a need to travel to be successful.
I don't need the cool points anymore.
Yeah. And I definitely was there at one point. I definitely felt like I needed it. And I'm sure, Cammie said she could relate. But at this point, success to me is actually making money so that I can support the trips that I want to go on.
Yes.
Because something that
downtime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think
Yes.
of if I have one wedding in a weekend, I would much rather, if I'm not going to work on the Friday and Sunday, I would rather fully take those days off,
True.
be with my friends, go to the beach, watch movies with my dog, hang out with my husband. I would rather do those things on those days I'm not making money than those travel days just feel like dead days to me. Like you're not relaxing, you're not working. I don't know. It's funny. Like this is a funny thing we all do.
Right. And another thing to think about too is that when someone sends us a destination wedding inquiry or whatever, we're not getting to pick where we're traveling to as well. So why would, when you were like taking into account the opportunity costs, and like Cammie was saying, like let's say instead of just shooting that one Saturday wedding elsewhere, you had 2 weddings out where you actually live, you're making double the profit. You can use that money to actually support going on a trip trip to a place that you get to choose, a place that you've always wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that mindset. Like everyone, 2019, I traveled a lot and people were like, oh my gosh, Gabe, like you get to go all these crazy places, like lucky you. And it was lucky me. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to like discredit that. I did have a great time.
That was a fun year for you.
Right. At the end of the year though, I was just like, man, I wonder what it would have been like if I did this and then maybe got to choose everywhere that I went to instead. And I chose some of the, like I went on some personal trips, but I could have done so much more if I really wanted to with the money that I could have been making by not going to all of these crazy places. So yeah, we're not trying to discredit, destination wedding photographers. And some people, we also are people who take on more than the average photographer as well. So for us, we're like looking at it from like, okay, how can we make more money? How can we actually like grow our businesses in different ways? And that might not be you. If you are the type of person that shoots 10 weddings and you want all of them to be in all of these different unique places, like that's who you are. That's what you're looking for. But that's not what we're looking for as business owners specifically. So
yeah, to me, so I understand our goals might be different than others. I just want to, I don't know, I guess this conversation is to give you permission to not feel that you need to be traveling for weddings to feel successful.
Right.
I've traveled a lot, but not to very many different places. Honestly, my biggest traveling years were those middle years of when I was transitioning my business to California. So in my last year and a half in Washington, I was traveling down to California a lot. And then in my first 2 years here, I was still shooting a lot of weddings in Washington. So there was a lot of back and forth between those two states specifically. But I've really, besides that, I've shot a small handful of traveling weddings. And, I want to be straight up that the most unhealthy and burnt out I ever was when I was traveling a lot. Straight up.
Yeah, totally.
It's really hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think too, like if you are going to be someone that focuses on that, you do have to come up with different systems and certain things that like, I mean, I'm not a designated traveling wedding photographer. Like that's not what I would call myself. I do travel for work sometimes, but it's not what I would call myself. I feel like a lot of people who maybe call themselves that might have a better system in place that they follow when they do the traveling stuff. So if you are going to do that, maybe just like figure that out. But it also, at the same time, it doesn't matter. Anyone, if you're up and down 24/7 traveling to all of these crazy different places, it's gonna mess with your brain. It's gonna mess with your sleep schedule. Just naturally, there's no way to get around it.
No.
So
and like your health, for me, like health is a huge priority. So I don't feel amazing eating out for 3 days in a row.
And we're going to the gym. Like it's hard to like actually work out when you're traveling because your normal option that you're used to is not available.
All my systems that make me feel like my best cami aren't available to me when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
So when I think of taking traveling weddings, I'm thinking about all of that.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me to an example of, because if you're listening to this, you might be like, but Cami, you shot that wedding in Guatemala, that one wedding of the year. Okay, yes.
Flex much?
I know. Hey, it's like the one thing I have.
No, you should be flexing it.
Okay, I shot a wedding in Guatemala for one of my friends who's a photographer in the area. And I did not really make money off that wedding. That was a very strategic decision, but not because I wanted to book more traveling work. I think that is a little bit of a misconception. Like around that time when I was doing that and getting ready for that and after, people were like, oh yeah, like just wait. The destination inquiries are going to come through. This is a huge door for you in the destination wedding market. And to be honest, that wasn't what it was about at all. At the time that this bride inquired with me, we were, friends-ish in the community. Now we're extremely good friends because of, she's probably one of my best friends now after getting to know each other over the last few years. But when she booked me to shoot this, I only kind of knew her. And she is I would say, if you're listening, I'm obsessed with you, girlfriend. She's like a big deal in San Diego. And so I knew I did this wedding at the price point I did, not to get more destination inquiries, but because I knew who she was in San Diego and the doors that would open for me in California because I shot her wedding. I have gotten a shit ton of destination inquiries since doing this wedding, but none of them have booked me because I can't get any of them to pay destination travel costs. And so I just want to be really straight up about that. That like,
Yeah.
yes, you can take traveling work at cheap or for free or whatever in hopes that you'll book more of it. But I want to be really transparent that like that wedding for me was not a moneymaker. I did
Yeah.
it for so many other reasons, but not to travel more, but for the connections that would, and I mean, creatively, it was so stimulating. Like that was incredible. But I mostly did it for the connection that it would bring me in my local market. And yes, I have gotten a lot of inquiries since, but I have not booked another wedding in Guatemala, even though I can say confidently I get one a month ever since that wedding. I get
Mind-blowing.
one Antigua wedding inquiry a month. After that wedding, it's been 2 years now, which blows my mind. Have not booked a single one because I now am not willing to travel for cheap or free unless it's for a friend. That's kind of another kind of
Or
boundary.
for an opportunity like the one that you probably mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, I'm not just going to do it just for the creative, or the cool points or whatever. Unless we're personal friends and I'd be invited to the wedding anyways, then it always feels fulfilling to me.
Right.
Because I'd want to be there anyways.
Right. And something too to take into account now that I'm like hearing you say this is I was thinking like, oh, well, would I do a wedding, a destination wedding for someone who I knew, they were just a big deal. They were wealthy and like could spread my name into like a higher market. And then my mind was like, well, no, if they were wealthy, they could afford to pay the full price and they would if they valued it.
Right.
So that probably isn't something that would be realistic.
Yeah. But yeah, all I know is I haven't booked destination or Guatemala weddings since because there's always someone that will be willing to do it for cheaper or for free or do the travel because they want the travel or the cool points or whatever. And so I just want to be straight up that like I did that. I did the cool destination wedding and no regrets because everyone at that wedding is like my best friends now.
Yeah.
It was like such an incredible opportunity for
Awesome.
I would do it over again in a heartbeat. But I want to be transparent that me shooting that wedding and taking that wedding has not resulted in me booking more traveling work at a legit price point. So
Interesting.
I just want to be straight up about that. Does that make sense?
No, that is honestly a great example because I was going to say now too, like, because I heard the same things going to workshops, learning from other photographers. That if you want to be a destination photographer, you just have to show that you travel and you have to show all of this stuff that will, and which is definitely true. But when Cami was saying that, like, in our industry, for some reason, being a traveling photographer is like the pinnacle of success. And in 2019, after I was doing a lot of traveling, it's so funny to me that like, I did feel that way for a minute where everyone was like, oh my gosh, Gabe travels all the time for weddings and stuff. Like, I didn't really feel like I traveled that much, but I guess I did. But it made me really popular with photographers, which in the beginning I was like, okay, like whatever, that doesn't really mean anything to me because they're not having me do like weddings, they're just like interested in me as a photographer. But I actually do book a lot of photographers' weddings now.
Yeah.
That would be the only thing that I feel like actually it made a difference in, which is so interesting because it's only because our niche and our industry is so obsessed with it.
Yeah,
I
they
feel
just
like.
value it so much. But I guess I just want to kind of expel the myth that like if photographers are traveling a lot, that doesn't mean they're getting paid to travel a lot. Like I think a lot of people in our industry are doing it for the illusion of more success than what is actually happening. And I think that's kind of whack. So I don't know. This is why this annoys me so much.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do we all do this for this illusion or fantasy of success? And we're so willing to make like no money to do it.
Totally.
So I want to move on.
Really quick, before we move on,
Oh,
a quick word from our sponsor
thank you,
over
good sir.
at Freedom Edits. Now, in past episodes, you have probably heard us talk about delegation and how important it is. I think I've specifically said in the past that if someone else can do a job 70% as good as you, then you need to delegate it out, or it is worthy of being delegated out because no one's going to be able to tell except for you.
Word.
Yeah. And honestly, when it comes to photographers, there is no better way to outsource any sort of work but with our photo editing because that is a bulk of our work. And
It's
promise
repeatable.
you,
It's like the only thing in our business that's repeatable.
Totally. It's something you can technically teach as much as you probably feel like you can't. And Freedom Edits will do even better than 70%
Way
as good of
better.
a job as you. And again, we are speaking here from experience. Cami and I both use them in the past and use them now, and we cannot sing their praises higher. To get started, all you have to do is go to freedomedits.com/don't take this personally. They have a free onboarding call that they will do with you where you can just show them exactly how you edit and teach them just how to do what you do specifically, because every photographer does things differently and they take the time to get to know how you do things. They'll give you free...
But you're also not as special as you think. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Like,
well...
people don't do things as differently.
I wasn't gonna say that.
I thought I was so special, but we do things all like similarly enough, you know?
Wow.
We all think
Called out.
I'm sorry. We
No,
all think
it's
we're
true.
so special, but it's really easy to teach someone to edit like you.
Oh my gosh. They'll give you free 20 edited images right off the bat, and then use promo code CamiGabe to get 50% off your first order.
Just try it, you guys.
Just try. Literally, it'll be a lifesaver.
So moving on.
Yes.
Now that we've kind of made the case for like, yes, we travel, we all do it. Really practically speaking, how do we do this? Because we're all going to do it. I wanted to give you guys some things to think about to like, you know, keep making money and all these things, but let's talk about it.
Pricing it out and everything.
Yes, I personally, I'll tell you what I do. I still shoot a lot of weddings in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a flat rate for domestic travel that I have had a lot of success with. So like for a lot of years, that was $750. Like I just did like a flat rate add on of $750 if it requires me to get on a plane domestically. And then I brought on accountants and they were like, yo, you know, you actually spend way more than that per trip.
Yeah, dude, I was about to be like, Cami.
I know.
Oh
So
my God.
yeah, I was scared. And so now that number is $1,250 and that feels better.
Yeah.
So now I just do like a flat rate for domestic travel. So if, you know, a Washington couple wants to book me, or I like shot a wedding in Montana 2 years ago, or, you know, just like different places that it's just like an add-on basically to my package. And I don't like doing it all inclusive, because it's very important for me for the couple to see what the travel cost is. So maybe because of that, I don't book a lot of them, but that's important to me. Like, I want them to understand, like, this is what, like, don't think I'm just doing this and not spending money. Like, it's a huge investment, and that's not even considering what you lose from the travel days of time.
Right,
like, that's
exactly.
just covering costs. So I do a flat travel rate for domestic, and for mine, the costs are fairly predictable because they're usually on the West Coast. And then for international, which I haven't really booked besides shooting my friend's wedding, I will do kind of custom based on what the costs actually are. So like I'll look at what the flights are, what it costs to stay places, and then we'll just kind of do it as we go that way. And yeah, practically speaking, I try not to book more than 3 to 5 traveling weddings a year, because I just know my personal limits now. I just want to be home. I do still, since I grew up in Washington, I have a lot of community in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm still shooting a lot of weddings up there. But I'm really trying to keep it to just a few a year and do most of the bulk of my work down here. So that's how I do it. And then if it's for a friend or something, I usually handle it differently. I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I don't like charging my friends. I feel weird charging my friends. So
You gotta get out of that, man.
I know. I have a really hard time charging my friends for anything. So with shooting my friends' weddings, usually there's some travel that goes with that, and we just kind of handle that case by case basis. But for non-friends, for clients, that's not the right thing to say, because I feel like that line is so blurry.
The line is blurry, which is why you can't do that anymore.
Okay, well, that'll be another episode, I think. That's how I do it.
So obviously it's a little bit similar, but I do the kind of all-inclusive package. But so the way that my packages are set up is I have 3. It's literally Southern California rates, stateside rates, so domestic travel rates, and then international rates. And they all have like a starting price, and then you can get all of the same like types of add-ons and stuff like that. So something that I actually just started implementing recently based off of a conversation that we had with our good old friend Andy Avery.
Oh, yes.
Is that something that COVID kind of taught all of us is that, like, what if we did book, Andy brought up a great point, like what if we did book travel wedding, and then we already bought like, you
already got your
tickets and
arrangements.
stuff like that, and then, the wedding gets postponed because of COVID, yada, yada, yada.
You're
out so much money and you already took a specific deposit, right? So for me, normally I do a $1,000 deposit up front. We can talk about that later. It's all psychology. And for destination travel though, anything that's outside of Southern California, I changed it so that whatever the travel cost was is also a part of the deposit that's not refundable.
I think this is really smart.
Yeah.
To just protect us in these times.
Exactly. And just protect us in general.
Well, yeah,
because
now going forward.
Even going forward, like if I were to look at like a Saturday date, like let's say someone wanted to take me somewhere on a Saturday in October, and like because of that, I was keeping myself from booking weddings on Friday and Sunday, and then for some reason they change the date or they move the wedding
Dude, I was just gonna say that for a traveling wedding, I feel like the retainer now should be way more, because what if you turn down work for that whole weekend?
Because so they have to pay the bigger retainer, because if they change everything, then it's on them that I lost potential business from the days that were before their wedding and stuff like that.
Another reason traveling work doesn't make a lot of sense from a business perspective.
Another jingle coming from Cami. I dig it.
Wow, I like that. Is there anything else policy or procedure?
No, the only other thing that I would just say from a practical standpoint, and this is something that I like really focus on because I do have a wife and kids, and I want to try to maintain some sort of work-life balance, and that's hard to do when you're traveling so much, is that I use my travel trips as like that just becomes my work time. And like, so if I'm gone from Friday through Sunday, for example, all day Friday, all day Saturday while I'm gone, I'm trying to get work done. And then I'm taking an extra day off maybe later in the week, or I'm taking, working less hours the rest of the week.
That's really good.
In order to make up for that, because it's time that I know that I don't want to sacrifice with my family, sacrifice with my life.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like that dead time. You made it not dead time, which I appreciate. It's hard for me to work on the road.
Yeah. The only thing, like, because I just look at it from like, okay, I book specific places where I know I can be comfortable working from the hotel room, working from whatever Airbnb I get. I do like to schedule my own shoots when I travel because it's fun to shoot unique stuff in different places and create what I want to create in these unique places. But again, I shoot a max of 2 to 3 times a week. So if I'm going to do that, it just means that I'm not shooting any other time that week.
Yes.
So you just got to balance it out in that way, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself crazy and you're going to have so much work. You're going to get overloaded, especially if you're not outsourcing your editing.
Literally.
And
that's actually the year I had to start outsourcing. When I was traveling all the time, I could not keep up with my shit. And
it's impossible.
Now I just like can't go back.
It's impossible.
Okay. I think that covers everything we wanted to touch with travel. We're not trying to tell you not to. Still do it. It's fun. It's exciting. I get it. But just think through some of these business little points we have for you, things to consider.
Yes. And you just got to weigh out every single opportunity and maybe even be more specific and intentional when you do get these inquiries. Like, is it something that's actually going to be worth it for you? Don't just be like, oh my gosh, another travel inquiry. Like, I got to do this because that means I'm cool.
You know what's cool? Going to bed early and staying home.
Yes, and making more money.
Yeah, you know what's cool? Making more money.
So,
okay, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for listening.
Yes.
I'm excited to see if anyone's gonna argue with us about this in Clubhouse. But they might.
And we're open
we're
to it.
Ready for you. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.